Warren Carter, our 2015 Bass Pro, Power Pole Bass Pro Angler of the Year for 2015. A great year for you, mate. You have a first, a second and third to claim victory. You've got to be fairly happy with your season.
Yeah, mate, I'm pretty stoked to have those sort of placings for basically my first year.
Now, I guess I could quote your arrival on the bass scene as a bit of a meteoric rise. You've been fishing the bream scene for well over a decade, but the bass is a bit of a new thing for you. What do you think is the key to your success so early?
Oh, look, I think it's just probably the time that I've spent growing up fishing on the water. You just can't beat time on the water. And no doubt the bream tournaments over the last 10 years has certainly played a big part. I think fishing venues under pressure is always a good thing.
Making the transition from bream to learning how to catch bass, your experience, is there any tips that you can garner out of that you would give to people who want to make that step from bream to bass, or simply want to get into bass for the first time?
Look, I think probably coming from the bream scene, particularly the black bream fishery, I think you can adapt to the bass, particularly if you've got a shutdown bite and you need to have a real finesse approach. So I think anyone from Victoria in particular that really knows how to fish for black bream can really take hold on the bass up here.
Now, as I mentioned, you've been fishing these tournaments for a very long time, yet you still remain fresh, hungry, and you seem to have the drive. How do you stay evergreen? How do you manage to do it?
Look, I've got to say the bass has really given me that extra lift, just something new. I actually thrive on different challenges, whether it's outside bream and bass, whether it be mulloway or even just chasing my King George whiting back home, even gummy sharks. So the fact that I don't fish for bream or bass outside tournaments, I guess that keeps me hungry as well.
Now, tournament seasons always have highlights and lowlights. Firstly, what was your highlight?
Oh, look, I've got to say Sinclair was probably one of my highlights. You know, I took it on as that was Tasmania. I fished jerkbaits, and that's what I'm really comfortable with, and that bite really turned out to be a jerkbait bite. Now,
was there a lowlight in your season?
You always have low times, but you just try and convert, and it's generally one session. So, I know Somerset, I think the first session I went in there, it was really tough. I couldn't get a single bite, and I finished up, I had to change. I had to move away from what a lot of other people were sort of saying they should do.
How do you bounce back when your confidence takes a hit like that?
I don't know, you just got to come back and just have another go. You just can't lay down and say, well, that's it, you know. You can always come back.
Now, out of all the anglers that I interact with on the bream, bass and barra tour, you probably do more miles on the road than any of them. It takes a big commitment. How do you manage to traverse such vast distances? Do you fly to destinations? Do you have somebody who helps you with the driving?
Yeah, look, I've got to say my wife Rachel, she is my backbone. Without her giving me the help to get to these tournaments, she basically does most of the driving while I'm able to sleep. Quite often I've got to go back to work the next day and she'll drive 12 hours, and I'll probably only drive out, probably 4 hours outside that 12 hours. So she really is my backbone.
So in addition to your wife, who is your backbone, as you say, anybody you'd like to thank for the year?
Oh, look, I can't help but think of Cameron Whittam. He's a real good friend, and I appreciate the time that we fish together. We share a lot of information, and really there's a little saying that goes, iron sharpeneth iron, and I want to see him succeed like he wants to see me succeed, and just feeding off his information is just incredible.
The relationships that you have with your fellow anglers are very much at the heart of why we do this. As I've said, you've done a lot in tournament fishing. Looking forward to the future, what are some of your goals and aspirations?
Oh, look, eventually I would like to go over to the States and have a go. Always like to challenge myself and look for new challenges, and I guess the States is probably where it's at. I've seen what Carl's done, and he's been a real inspiration to all of us back here in Australia. Whether I get that opportunity and whether I go, we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, mate, you have joined a list of very famous and very talented bass anglers as the Angler of the Year. I wish you all the best for 2016.
Thanks, Simon.